Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Bookcast. Yeah, hello. Basically, this is a series where I come on every 2 months and I tell you guys about everything that I read in the previous 2 months and what I think of them and whether or not I recommend you guys reading them. So, yeah, let's get this party started. This 2 months, November and December, I've read 4 books that I get to talk about. So I actually I read more. Usually I kind of average on like 2 to 3 books per month. But this 2 month I actually was reading one fiction book the entire time because it's huge. So there's not much to talk about, I guess. Like it's a lot shorter than usual. So anyway, regardless, let's get this party started. The first book that I read is called The Critique of Economic Reason by Andre Gorz. I think that's how you say his name. Basically, it's a critique of economic rationale, and it's basically offering alternatives to the specific reasoning. But this specific book is essentially a book about after work or post-work socialism, post-work societies. And if you guys don't know what that is, it's essentially technology that people believe in, which I think I'm one of those people, which essentially is people believe that we should be decreasing work hours, and basically decreasing work hours until it's like part-time work. Everybody just works part-time, and then instead we spend that time doing things that we want to do and having time for ourselves and for our growth and our lives and basically things that we want to do. So it believes that it's way better that way. It's more ethical and more moral because humans are not going to waste their entire lives at a job that they hate, number one. Number two, it's going to help with unemployment because employment is shared across huge amounts of people, and it believes like it is the most ethical outcome for society. Doing a curriculum that is specifically about about post-work society. So a lot of my nonfiction books are going to be talking about that. So I just want to put that out there in advance right now. But this is an amazing book. I really like this book. I think I gave it a 10 out of 10. That is how much I like this book. But it is talking about essentially economic reasoning and economic rationale. I have an econ degree, so I kind of grew up. I kind of studied for 4 years about economic reasoning and economic rationale. And also in those 4 years, we have also criticized a lot about economic reasoning and how it's like sort of not really great. But this guy, Andre here, he goes on in depth talking about the reasoning and why it's bad and why it's stupid. And he really critiques it very, very well. Reading this book was very, very fun and I enjoyed it so much. It was very enlightening. Like he talks about different things that I think have basically challenged and confronted my worldview, even though I have very similar worldviews. But also he talks about a lot of things that I have necessarily thought about, and he uses analogies and different methods of explaining why it's stupid that I haven't really thought about before. So I do think it's very brilliant. This book is a really good book. I think that everyone should read this book if you're a Gen Zer and you're kind of sick of work and you don't really understand why we have to work so much, etc. I think this is a really good book for you. It is a little bit dense. It's a bit heavy read. It's not necessarily the easiest. I do think that the language itself is very easy, but I do think there's a lot of information. So it's a little bit harder to digest, but it's also so like an insanely good book. I still recommend this regardless. So yeah, I really enjoyed this book. Highly recommend, you guys. Highly recommend. Next book I read is The Work Cure by David Frayne. I think that's how you say his name. David Frayne is actually the one who wrote The Refusal of Work, which I read and actually has put me on this whole post-work society thinking in its first place. This is a second book of his, so I decided to read because I thought it would be very similar to sort of that realm of like thinking. But this is slightly different. I think it is related to the post-work thinking, but I think it's specifically honing in on a very specific rationale on why we should be doing this, which is the ways in which work in neoliberalist understandings are actually affecting the mental health of individuals. So it's a collection of essays that discuss mental health effects that are caused by work culture and how neoliberalist culture are basically harming people that are living under it. The collection of essays comes from all sorts of people, specifically from like therapists, psychotherapists. There's also activists, there's labor union leaders in here. It's a very interesting book to read. I think because it taught me things that I actually didn't quite know. It basically heavily criticizes the mental health industry and how the mental health industry in its core is just perpetuating neoliberalist culture rather than actually helping people to fix the symptoms that they have. A lot of the symptoms that we have, which is discussed in this book, like anxiety, depression, etc., are actually just symptoms of us not being able to deal properly with the system, because the system is basically horrible and it doesn't work, or it works in that way specifically. That's how it's made to work. But people are struggling, people are tired, and living under capitalism is horrible, and it creates mental health illnesses, and it creates a lot of symptoms, like a lot of stress. It creates a lot of anxiety. It creates a lot of depression. And what the mental health industry does, instead of basically using that as means to politically organize in order to change the system, we instead go to these places and they just teach you ways to cope with your mental health by yourself, right? It's like another thing they discuss is how they make it like a you problem. So like the reason why you have those specific mental health illnesses is not because the system is bad, it's because you are unable to cope with the system. Some people can cope with the system, but there's something wrong with you. And this perpetuates the individualistic ideologies that are rooted in neoliberalist culture and that are rooted in the system that basically wants you to continue to be, a kind of like a slave to the system, always working, always feeling trapped, and pushing that sort of culture on you. He discussed how a lot of times, like, even doctors actually perpetuate neoliberalist culture because the government tells them, like, hey, you should recommend people getting jobs if they feel ill, which is crazy. And I was actually telling my sister about this, and when she was sick, she had like chronic gastritis. Like, it has nothing to do with that, but they were like, do you have a job? And at that time she was unemployed, and they were like, you don't have a job, you should get a job, and then you'll feel better. And I thought that was crazy because what do you mean? She has like chronic gastritis, has nothing to do with it. But that's how it works. Like, that's what they tell them. They tell them to always push work, and a lot of times they tell like mental ill to individuals that the reason why they're mentally ill is because they need to work, and once they get a job they're gonna be fine, everything's cool. But like, oftentimes these things are caused by work culture, and these things are caused by essentially the system, and so like, this is not gonna fix the issue. And it criticizes how that energy that could have been used on organization and organizing and change and all of that is being instead wasted on us trying to heal ourselves and trying to cope with the system and make ourselves feel better. But in the end, it's sort of like putting a band-aid on a wound that needs stitching. There's no way it's gonna help. It's just it's making us think that we're doing something about it, and that's making us feel slightly better, but we're not actually doing anything about it. And instead, it advocates for actual organization and political organization and working towards real changes. This book is so interesting. It really opened my eyes about a lot of things that I think I've never thought about before. There's also like a lot of interesting people that have written for this book. There's a lot of things like for example, disability advocates and activists we're talking about how this like anti-work culture and how neoliberalist culture affects them. And I was like, obviously, like, it makes sense. Like, when you hear it, you're like, yeah, of course. But it truly like gets to me, like, how much this system is incompatible with humans. Like, this system is completely and utterly incompatible with humans. Like, it's not that we are incompatible with the system, it's that the system is incompatible with us. And it's so important to be discussing those things. So yeah, I highly recommend the book Cure. I think it will definitely help you understand a little bit in more details and more depth the extent to which mental health gets affected by neoliberalism. The Brothers of Karamazov. I loved this book, The Brothers of Karamazov by Fyodor Doustovsky. I started this book back in September and I did not finish until November, so it actually took me quite a bit of time, and I actually didn't finish it until the end of November, which I started in the end of September as well. But this is such a good book. If you don't know what it is, it follows three brothers, the oldest Dmitry, the second Ivan, and the youngest Alyosha, following the events of before their father murder, during their father murder, and the events after their father's murder. This is a classic. If you don't know The Brothers of Karamazov, it's a classic. It was written in, literally, I looked it up, it was written in 1880. That is how old this book is. It's crazy. But I think reading this book was truly, like, it was an insane experience. I gave it a 10 out of 10. I do think that you should 100% read this book. I do think that you should read this book very slowly. I think I liked it so much because I read this book very slowly and I did not rush it through. I think this book is not meant to be rushed. It's meant to be consumed over an extended period of time, in my opinion. Is it that easy to read? No, it's not. It is a little bit harder to read, but it's not too hard. Like, I give it an ease of read. I give it a 7. Like, it's not that hard to read. I think the only thing that is a bit hard is hard to follow through who is who and who is, like, speaking and whatever, because with Russian novels, I think that's a thing in Russian novels, is they tend to have, like, a lot of different names. The characters tend to have different names. And so in the specific copy I had, it had a list of characters at the start and all of their different nicknames. So that helped me quite a bit. And over the course of time, I actually immediately understood, like, I started memorizing the different nicknames. And so I knew who was who and who was talking, whatever. So it stopped being an issue for me. But yeah, I loved this book. I think this is one of my favorite books that I've read ever. This book was so good. It has so many philosophical conversations that are so enlightening. There's conversations that are had in Brothers Karamazov that I still remember, and I resonated with me, and some that actually, like, shocked me a little bit. I'm like, wow, damn, I've never thought about that. This book was kind of like my companion. Like, when I finished it, I was kind of sad to see it go, and every time I see it, I feel like it really warm feelings towards it. Like, I genuinely became super attached to this book, I think, because I've read it for such a long period of time. But it's so good. I don't think after I finished, I think The Brothers of Karamazov, I just was like, oh, there are books out there that are written very differently. And I was thinking why we don't have modern day authors that write books like this in this specific style, in this specific quality. And I think it's because we kind of live in a very neoliberalist, like, capitalist age where, like, it's all about quantity, it's all about pushing and what does the people like. It's not about, you know, writing quality art. It's about making things that are sellable and are marketable. That The Brothers of Karamazov would not have done well in modern time, because it was released a long time ago and it would have done well. But in modern time, having, like, this extensive levels of, like, conversations that aren't necessarily important to the plot per se, but they're still very important regardless. These things, I think, would have never have been okay in a modern day book. People would have just criticized the living shit out of it. And I think that's why. But I definitely was like, oh, there are books out there that are just on a whole nother level that are amazing. And I didn't realize that at all. But yeah, I love this book so much. I think I definitely want to read the next year. I definitely want to read another Fyodor book, but I don't know which one I'm gonna read. Maybe Crime Punishment, or I think I want to read The Idiot. But regardless, I really want to tackle another one, but these things are so hard to tackle. They're so long, so they tend to take a lot of time, so they're definitely an investment. So I think I'm gonna take my time and pick one that I really, really want to read and tackle that, because it will take a long time for sure. But it's definitely an amazing book. I highly recommend. Genuinely, it's a really good book. Even if you don't like, I mean, I didn't think I like classics. I've never read classics. This year I was really trying to read outside of my comfort zone and trying to read new things. I've never thought I would like classics, but God damn, this book was phenomenal. Like, it was phenomenal. When I finished it, I just felt so sad because I became attached to all these characters, and the characters felt so human. Like, it's just so human of all the characters. Like, I spoke about this a little bit in my other videos, but the way that even though they are representative of something, they are representative of, like, because the oldest Dimitri is passion, Ivan is like logic and sort of knowledge, and Alyosha is or Alexei is basically religion. Even though they are representative of something, that didn't make it so that they feel very two-dimensional, or that they don't really make sense as a character. I think that they were very human, and they're very complex and so well written. I think it was such a good book. I just loved I loved it. It was so good. I enjoyed it so much. So I definitely highly recommend you guys read The Brothers of Karamazov. Yeah. Okay, let's move on to the next book. I read After Work by Helen, Hester, and Nick Cernek. I don't know how I think that's how you say his name. I'm not sure. Okay, this is a very recent read. I think I finished this yesterday or the day before. I give it a 9 out of 10. And it's very easy to read, so, like, it's a 10 out of 10. But essentially, it discusses post-work society from a feminist perspective, and it focuses on issues of social reproduction work and how that would look like in a post-work society. This is like a continuation of what I said, which is basically post-work curriculum that I was doing. And in this book, when you read other post-work thinkers, they tend to think that reproductive work and social reproductive work is sort of a what is it? It's like a liberation. It's like a good thing in a sense. And she discusses how Andre Gorz talks about that a little bit, which I remember reading it, but when I was reading Andre Gorz, I kind of understood what he was talking about. He was talking about how it is a little bit kind of neoliberalist of us to look at, like, a woman taking care of her children or cooking meals for the family, like, basically family taking care of each other, and then looking at that and going, that's labor, right? And I understood that as well. I agree with it to some degree. It is something that it is horrible to take affection and love towards one another and to label that as work and to label that as labor, essentially. But I do also believe that social reproductive work is hard. And it is a job, in a sense. It is really hard. And I do think that it is unfairly divided between men and women. And it's something that we still need to discuss very heavily. And so, yeah, I think this book is tackling that specific part of post-work thinking. Yeah, I think this book was very interesting. It has definitely confronted a lot of the things that I believed in, from, like, from raising children to essentially like even like the hygiene, the motherhood, like the way that people talk about motherhoods, etc. I definitely didn't think of them that deeply, but they definitely make a lot of sense. And, like, when you read them, you're like, oh, that actually makes a lot of sense. A lot of the times I understood things that we struggle with as women more deeply after I had read this book. So definitely it was a very powerful read. I really, really liked it. It also introduced me to something new, which is how important communes are to humans and how important communes are to women. Specifically, I think communes will help women with reproductive work. I think that's a really good idea to when we restructure society using it in a post-work thinking, it is important to focus on having communes and having places and areas where everyone can be with one another and help each other out with reproductive work, social reproductive work, because that is extremely difficult. Care labor is extremely difficult, and it cannot fall on the mom and a dad, and definitely that has never been the case prior to capitalism. We, like, you know how they say it takes a village. It literally takes a village. And I think it's talking about how not only should we work less, but also we should be going back to sort of our roots, where we all as a society took care of one another and lived together and worked together. And I think that is like a very important book, and that's a very important conversation to be had, specifically in the post-work kind of realm. But yeah, I really, really enjoyed this book. I really liked it. Oftentimes, like I said, it like kind of confronted a lot of my beliefs, but I do think that one thing is that I do agree with that we should look for like ways in order to organize communes, but we should look into ways where she kind of discussed this a little bit towards the end, where I personally like my privacy and I personally like to be away from people. So like living in a commune sounds fun, but also privacy is something that humans crave. And so I think we need to create sort of a balance with that. And yeah, I'm interested to learning more about the organization of home in a post-work society. I think that is a very interesting concept and a very interesting subject to discuss. So yeah, I really, really, actually really, really like this book. So yeah, these are all of the books that I've read. I will tell you guys what I'm currently reading. My current reads are for my fiction book. It's The Master and Margarita, which I'm almost done with. I'm at the last 100 pages. Master and Margarita is a fucking weird book, dude, guys. I don't understand what it means. I don't understand what it stands for. I'm just extremely confused, but it's actually a really well written book, so I'm still enjoying it so far. I'm enjoying reading it. I still don't understand what's going on. Is it just the devil fucking with people? I think it is. I don't know what it means or what it stands for, but we're figuring it out. Sometimes you don't understand until the end, so I'm hoping to understand at the end. But right now I'm kind of very confused. But I know now what Master and Margarita stands for, which is fucking awesome, guys. It's fucking awesome. Another one that I'm currently reading is my nonfiction book is Women, Gender, Women, and Race. Oh my god, I don't remember the specific order, and I'll put it here, but it's by Angela Davis. I love that book. So far, I'm at chapter 2, and I love that book, but my sister read this book, and she quotes it often, she talks about it often, so I know that I'm gonna love it regardless, but so far, I really like it. It's a really well-written book, but I'm only at chapter 2, so I can't quite say, but yeah, I'm taking a bit of a break from my post-work kind of curriculum for now, because I have read consistently about the specific subject for weeks, actually for a month now, for 2 months now, so I do think that I need a little bit of a break for January, but yeah, hopefully I can finish Master Margarita in time so that I would have read 39 books, and if I can read another book in that time, which I doubt it will happen because we're at the 25th of December. There's no way I can read 2 books, in 5 days. But if I do, I would have 40, and I kind of really want to have 40 books that I've read this year. But it is what it is. It's still fine regardless. But yeah, I really, really enjoyed this year. This is officially like my last video about books for this year, but I really enjoyed this specific goal of mine, which is to read as much as possible. I definitely will continue reading, hopefully in the next year, and hopefully I can read a lot more things, and get more educated and learn about new things, and also explore more words in the next year. And hopefully you will do that too. So if you have any book recommendations or anything that you've been reading that you like and you want me to read, let me know. Yeah, that is all for today. I will see you guys in the next year, probably. See you guys. Bye. Bye. Oh, you guys, I'm gonna still add a McIntyre's bit, and I'm gonna tell you guys that you've been nominated to subscribe. You should subscribe. I nominate you to subscribe. All right, I'm gonna go now. Bye.